Welcome back, and thank you for being with us this morning. We have our dear friend Wilfried Eibach out of Germany with Stefan. We have Cameron Steele here in California with us, and we have David Carty with us as well from California. John Kilroy is going to be our host. So good morning to you in California. Good evening in Germany. And we're
good evening together.
Delighted to have you here. I'd like to say a special word for Wilfried, because Wilfried has been an inspiration for me as a racer and entrepreneur, and he is one of a kind in this industry. And all of us in this industry have so much admiration for who he is, what he has done. And I'd like to share two little stories with you. I see we have about 2 minutes. And one little story goes back to 2003. At that time, I was working for the wonderful Steve Lewis, who I learned so much from. And then we were in Indianapolis, and Steve asked me to organize a reception for our international guest and to find a great speaker. And he said, Wilfried would just be perfect. So John Kilroy helped me get a series of questions, and Wilfried was our special guest. And during the questions, one of them was, and I will remember that my whole life, Wilfried, could you please share with us your secret for doing so well in bringing a company to the US? And Wilfried looked at me with big eyes and said, secrets? I don't have secrets, but what I can do is share with you guys all the mistakes I made so you don't make them too. And that's Wilfried. That's just, show his strength, his confidence, what a genius he is. And then share a second story with you guys as we have 1 more minute. In 2018, when I went into launch EPARTRADE with my co-founder, Judy Keane, and the great John Kilroy, I told Wilfried what I was going to be doing. And I told him this is a really, really big risk, but I think this is what needs to be done. And Wilfried looked at me and says, Francisque, the biggest risk of them all is not to take any. And that's, again, what an inspiration you have been for all of us in this industry. So I wanted to share that with you and with our audience. And so thank you for being with us. It is 8 o'clock here in California. And my understanding is it's 5 p.m. in Germany. So John Kilroy, you're on. Special thank you to David Carty for organizing these sessions, for believing in the EPARTRADE platform since launched. And we are delighted to have you guys with us today. John, on to you.
All right, thank you, Francisque. The webinar we have today is Championship Proven Spring Technology and Manufacturing Processes with Eibach. We have Wilfried Eibach, Chairman of the Eibach Group, with us, David Carty, National Sales Manager at Eibach Springs, Stephen Stocker, Motorsports Manager of Eibach, and Cameron Steele, a Baja 1000 champion, Motorsports TV personality, and founder of Desert Assassins and Adventure, as well as Baja HQ. As Francis said, it's an especially big deal to us personally to have Wilfried Eibach here. We've known Wilfried for decades now, and he's been something of a mentor and for sure an unofficial advisor for us. And we've been talking to Wilfried the whole time, going back 30 years, about the global perspective on racing, which has just changed dramatically from there's not much global trading going on back in 1990 to it's normal now. Crossing the Atlantic, crossing the Pacific, global trading has just become normal in the racing business. And then I remember when I look back on some of my moments with Wilfried, there's a time about 15 years or so ago where a lot of companies in the US were complaining about parts coming from China. And we talked with Wilfried, and he was in China at the time because he was figuring out how to sell parts to the Chinese, sell parts to Southeast Asia. And we just thought that was brilliant. It was pretty early at that time, but that's what Wilfried does. He gets there early, he plants the seed, he follows up and executes so well. And then there's really, right now, and probably the last 5 years, there's a serious market for race parts in China and Southeast Asia. It's a burgeoning market. Eibach has 6 locations around the world. There's a giant Eibach facility about 20 miles away from where I live, and it's just prominent off a major freeway, right near a major freeway intersection. And you really can't miss Eibach in the United States, whatever racing event you go to. And the interesting thing about Eibach, which is there's a million interesting things, but in the U.S., I believe a lot of people think Eibach is a U.S. company. And that's really hard to take a company from outside the United States, where they started, and just fit in with the culture, fit in with the business practices. But Eibach's done that, and it's just masterful, and I'm still trying to figure out how they did it. And then as far as the technology coming out of Eibach, we've seen it. It's just a nonstop state of improvement of performance and racing applications, nonstop. I mean, today's a Tuesday. Eibach is figuring out how to make the product better, stronger, lighter, everything. And I love this description of Eibach in their showcase. It's very simple. Eibach products are created to meet the extreme requirements of racing, from the 245-mile-per-hour Mulsanne straight of Le Mans to the fender-to-fender combat of Daytona Motor Speedway. And that's the description of Eibach that we have in the EPARTRADE.com showcase. And that's it. And that's Eibach to me. So there's a lot to talk about. Go to their showcase. They have a great showcase on EPARTRADE. And Wilfred, just personally, thank you for being here. And I'll throw it to you. What's your opening statements, Wilfred, about Eibach talking to the worldwide racing industry right now?
What can I say? You said everything about us. Thank you very much, and nice to see you. Nice to be in such a meeting. For me, it's a kind of first time to be so virtual here. Yeah, we are here. We are sitting. We got the first snow here, so it's the first winter day. And usually I would be out there in my second homeland, and having been then at the Baja this year, but I missed it, and we missed all the SEMA show. So it's a different world at the moment. Nevertheless, it's unbelievable how much business is still going on. So here we are, and I go back. I was thinking about Turkey Night last week. Actually, it was the first time that I celebrated my birthday here in Germany since 33 years, because I always had birthday around the Turkey Night. It was actually on Thanksgiving last week. I hope you can't see that I had birthday. So I missed the Turkey Night. And to be honest, my daughter, she was with me at the time. You remember Swanke?
Oh, yeah.
And the first time, it was possibly 25 years ago, then we went to Turkey Night. And then Steve Lewis was there with the midgets. And we met Steve Lewis, and somehow, I don't know why, but there was some sympathy out there, and he took us around. There was no Eibach Spring, not anyone. And look today. And we kept on going and looking for new customers and segments. And as I have a kind of hunting fever in me, and my wife did not allow me to go for any blondes or brunettes. So I went for new customers and went for new marketplaces. So that's what it is. And of course, it's I'm now 62 years with the company. Started with my father when we were 3. Now we are 600. It's quite amazing what we have achieved. And but we only could achieve it with you. We always had friends at our hand. Doug Stokes was one of them, and also in Irvingdale. Then we were taken to Baja, and then I was lost. In Baja, I'm lost in off-road. And I had my friends, Arvin Springer, Yves Morisot. We are called the Three Musketeers. So what can you say? And you said we are a German company. I can't agree. In America, we are a proud American company, okay, yes, with a little bit of a German accent. But in China, they say the same thing. So, and I hope that we never gave any indication that we are a typical German. Typical German businessmen can be a little bit rough once in a while, and we always like to be what we are. And I think among our people, we call ourselves, in general, we say we are all soul brothers. Look at Tony Tobias in England. So he said we are, Wilfried, we have to be proud. We are millionaires. I said, I don't want to be a millionaire. He said, but we are friendship millionaires. And that's why I'm proud of. So hello to all. Hello, Cameron. We want to see you now. Whatever, you control it. John, nice to see you. Nice to be with you.
It's good to be here.
Oh, go ahead, Cameron.
I was just going to say it's good to be here, John, and I'm excited to be a part of the Eibach family. And I think when you say it's known as an American company, I think it's just known as a great company. So everybody has a symbolic feeling about what Eibach means to them and what it means to our racing industry, and not just to roll on and pile on the compliments, but when you are associating or using the best products and they stand so proud. I mean, right off the freeway, like you were saying, I mean, we drive by it all the time. It feels like it's part of Americana. And I just think it's part of that culture of racing and freedom and excitement. And that's what makes it feel like it's just part of America in general.
Yeah. One of the many amazing things about Wilfried is that Steve Lewis was taking suppliers all the time around midget racing and say, here's an opportunity for you. And especially from Europe, they would say, no, we can't do it. And we just say no. And then Wilfried says yes. And now that if you go in the showcase in EPARTRADE, there's springs for midgets, brand new springs for midgets. So that's the kind of person, again, that Wilfried is. I have some very specific questions for Eibach, but again, Wilfried, I just want to start off with a general question. We have people who own and run racing businesses here. So just share with us kind of briefly your philosophy and your practices and your discipline when it comes to developing a business. Wilfried, how have you accomplished all this?
You mean time-wise, or it's just going step by step? And how did we end up? Well, I think we are not at the end with the number of applications we have alone for racing. Okay, I remember in 1981 I designed the first 10 or 12 race springs, and now we have 1,700 or 1,800. David knows exactly. But most of our race springs, 90%, are made in Corona. Sorry for the word Corona, but I like the city of Corona. And so whenever we had someone, I said once to Greg Cooley, he was still in charge, and I said, we are this suspension company for the motorsport industry. And what we have the damn commitment, when there is a need for a spring, we have the obligation to make it. And that's what we did all the years. Whenever someone came and said, I need an application, I need a spring for my mini midget. Also Steve Lewis. Then we made the springs. And then when we saw there is at least a reasonable quantity to follow, we made it a catalog part and put some on the shelf. And that's why we ended up with 1,700 part numbers, which we have on the shelf. And that's what we are doing. And it's only possible if we would be a company owned by an investor or be at the Wall Street. We wouldn't be allowed to do so, because some of these parts, they turn around maybe once every 3 years. So from a profit standpoint, there are some things which we should not do. But being committed to the motorsport industry, and which we are, and we are enthusiastic about it. And fortunately, as a family-owned company, we don't have any greedy shareholders to feed. So we are allowed to do so. And yeah, it's passion. It's passion. There's possibly more emotions in there than rational thinking once in a while, but the combination makes it. And therefore, I think this is only possible with the family-owned companies, that we can say, come on, we are going to do it. And when our we have a few shareholders, only a very few, which means the bankers when they come in and say, and the first time they said, hey, you have too much inventory. And I said, then I explained to him the model. And then they said, yeah, we understand. Next time I say, don't you want to complain about our inventory? No, you need that. so we are all fine. And it's more than, it's our life. It's our life. I think you know it. And to be honest, I'm now 78 and I like it every day. It's the best medicine I can have to be with these guys. They care for me as much as I cared for them. It's a wonderful world. That's all. And sorry, next year, Baja, the Three Musketeers will be there.
John, I'd like to add to that. I think Wilfred's greatest trait is obviously he's been fearless over the years to make these steps going across the country or the ocean to another country, bringing his company across and seeking business. But his greatest trait and attribute, I think, has always been having the right people around him, from his wife Nina to everybody it's involved in the business and relationships that he's made. He'll tell you himself that he's known as the matchmaker. If anybody's been around him, the PRI, or because he knows everybody first of all. So you walk around with Wilfred, and everybody knows who he is. But anybody has any issues, like Francis talked about earlier, and wants to know some advice, and if he doesn't know, he knows someone that knows, and he'll make that connection. And I think that's very important. I think that's probably his greatest attribute. If you walk around, Stefan can attest to this. If you walk around the company, there's great pride. Like you said, it's a family company. We all feel the same pride. We're making a product that we stand behind. We know it's we have the support behind us, and I think that's a test to Wilfred from the top down, and it really resonates with the whole company.
Yeah, well, Wilfred's amazing. I have seen Wilfred in action at an off-road race in Arizona. And Wilfred has this way of turning everybody into a cousin. So like as he walks through the race, he knows everybody, he's happy as hell, and everybody's a cousin. It's really wonderful. Okay, let's get down to business a little bit. David, you want to tell us about the Cyber Week sale you have going on right now? Sure.
Yeah, we as we all know, this year more than ever, the cyber sales are just through the roof, with not being able to go anywhere. But we started this a few years ago, and just started as the Thursday kind of through Monday. It's grown, and now we're stretched out for 2 weeks between wholesalers and retail. But we've had a good week or so of Cyber Week sales. So yeah, it's a great thing. I mean, that's for the crazy year that we've had, and you guys too. I mean, your platform just the timing couldn't have been better. We thank you, John and Francis, for having us first of all and putting us on. But yeah, the whole online shopping experience and Cyber Week this year more than ever has just been crazy.
Great. And then, Stefan, I want to bring you into this conversation. Well, why don't you describe your role at Eibach, and then how much fun it is to be representing Eibach in the racing world?
Yeah, thanks for the invitation and for the word. So I've been with Eibach now with 18 years, and started as a mechanic in the R&D center, and grow up to an engineer. And now I run the whole motorsport department here in Germany. And as Wilfred mentioned, most of the biggest benefits what we have internal, let's say, is a global network what we have. So internal network in case of the engineering team, in case of production team. So each plant is set up after the DIN ISO rules and certifications. And therefore we have quite a good basic standards set up. And this all is done by Wilfred's passion. So like David mentioned, he has so many, or set up so many people around the world who knows him really well, and therefore it makes sense, things easier to work with when you work after Wilfred's passions. Therefore, it's fun to work for Eibach.
No.
Go ahead,
May
Wilfred.
I add something? May I add something? He's a little bit too modest. He grew up to be the specialist for suspension, including meaning the suspension setup, including the spring, the damper, and the stabilizer bar. And he's working with especially with special vehicle to do the complete setup. Mostly we work with Bilstein on the shock absorber side, and for example, over here in the Middle East and here, there is a market for armored vehicles. And you know, these vehicles, they put up 2 times the weight of the original vehicle. And if you don't change the suspension, they drive around like drunken dromedaries. So he's working on those vehicles, and he does it all up to the final test driving. And he's really a specialist in there. So that's Stefan. And it's fun to be out with him. It's fun to be out with David. So when the day is done, there's always an evening and a time for a beer.
Okay, and then again, one of the hardest things about racing today is that there's just so many diverse ways of going racing. Everybody has kind of micro niches for the racing technology and the applications. And Eibach keeps up with all that. So as everything diversifies, a lot of companies can't work across the whole spectrum of motorsports, but Eibach can, which is just amazing. And then Cameron, I have to say that the suspension setup of a trophy truck kind of rivals the technology in F1 racing. I mean, it's just astounding what you demand out of that truck when it comes to suspension. So tell us about the challenge of the suspension in off-road racing, and then how Eibach works with you to resolve that issue.
Well, the biggest thing for me when you start looking at a trophy truck is the front of the truck has 25 inches of wheel travel, and the rear of the truck has about 36 inches capable. We actually have ours strapped a little shorter than that. And the amazing part about what the spring does, I mean, not only does it hold the truck up and give you your ride height, and it has to perform at that comfort level for when you're on the graded road or on the fast road, you're going 120 miles an hour plus. But that same spring has to produce as the shock, as the system drops out, and then as it compresses and bottoms out. And it's really amazing the progression and consistency that you can have with the Eibach spring. And that's what really counts on the trophy truck. I mean, you have so much unsprung weight also with that tire and wheel combo. You know, you think about how much weight is hanging out there and what we're trying to accomplish with a 6,500 pound vehicle. It's just shocking to go through that technology. And then what Eibach has been great with, we actually just went through a ton of testing with the Ford Bronco. For those of you that know, we were racing with their new prototype Bronco R at the Baja 1000. And it was really cool because David and his crew at Eibach had different ideas and setups that we could take to the Bronco and make it work as plush as possible. Now, you got to remember, it's a limited travel vehicle. It only has 11 inches of front wheel travel. So we're looking for like this brilliant combination of, well, it still gets on top, but it doesn't rebound too hard, and it doesn't bottom out too quickly. It's like the ask is not just one, right? It's all these different areas in the suspension, and we had just an amazing run with Bronco, and thanks to David and everybody at Eibach. I mean, there's a backstory to it too, where David was actually handing off springs to helicopters that were flying around, and we were transferring out to the desert so we could try different setups. It was an amazing week of testing. But I think that to answer your question, to have something, a product that has consistency and quality that you can trust. I mean, if you break a spring, you're out of the race, right? And your whole life in that trophy truck depends on being able to move forward through 3 and 4 foot deep holes. So you're not asking it to set at one setting or move a finite amount. We're talking about 3 feet of travel in the rear of the truck, more or less.
Yeah, that's astounding. And David, what is the main difference between different spring brands and the springs that Eibach produces? David?
I think the biggest thing is kind of what Cameron just touched on is, we pride ourselves with consistency. it's not easy to make one spring, but it's very difficult to consistently make the same springs within a tight tolerance year after year. Well, Cameron probably uses them up in that form of racing quicker than anybody, but typical racers can have them for a couple of years. So, what you pull out of a box needs to be within, the same percentile as 2 years ago as it is this year to match up. Otherwise, you're throwing your setup off. So it's, I think what sets apart Eibach is the ability to have that recipe and year after year, not only improve on that, but consistently have the same products and that people can trust and pull that box off the shelf and know what's inside of it. And we do that not only here, but same in Germany, same in China. So, basically can get that same spring anywhere around the world and your race team knows what they can depend on and it's going to be the same thing.
For sure. I think that's sorry to butt in, but that's a great point, David, because no matter what we do, when you send us a spring, we know it's the exact same spring we can put right in the truck and go race. And we don't have to worry about going out and doing a bunch of testing to verify that it's the same. And I think that consistency, again, is just lets you build your entire race vehicle around that consistency. And I back on that point, when I came to Corona and we did the spring testing, the tolerance of the spring versus our Baja 1000 winning spring in 2018, it was amazing how still exact that spring was after we raced on it.
Yeah, it was within less than 1% from when it started, wasn't it? After 1,000 plus miles or whatever. And
insane. I can't believe it. I mean, to be able to have that kind of quality and be able to trust it is just shocking. But to be able to go there and prove it, right? To put it on the machine and see it work. And then you're like, wow, that's pretty incredible.
I love the idea of consistency that you can depend on. It's not talked about enough in racing, but that's a real thing in racing. And I'm glad you brought that up. Wilfred, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to say something about the tolerances. Usually people think Germans are always pushing forward for the finest product, but we were pushed in America to make the lowest tolerances on race springs. And so it was the American motorsport industry which requested from us tolerances of plus minus 2% on any general EIS spring. Here, we were at that time at plus minus 4%.
Yeah.
Now we're also down to 2% here. But the biggest challenge gave us NASCAR when they said they wanted plus minus 1%. And we do it. And we keep the consistency throughout the travel. So we learned through the American motorsport industry to become better. And it's fine. I was proud about that. Hey, I came back to Germany and said, hey, we have to get better here. So there was a little bit of a competition between our US facility and here, which is normal. Today, we are all wise enough. We know we are so identical. We use the same machinery. We use the same wire. We are so identical. Even in China, they have the most modern German winding machines. Of course, that is also an important part. The raw material, as you need a solid foundation to make a superior product. We need high tensile material, which is also durable. So we have to test our suppliers on that side as well. So, but I would like to bring one point up here where I'm proud of. We learned from motorsports an ideal test field to go over known engineering limits. Then we found the market, the aftermarket, which you say SEMA, we say performance automotive market. We became a leading company there. But for a company which comes from motorsport and through aftermarket to be a highly sought OEM supplier, that happened over the last 5 to 6 years. We have built a special plant. We have now practically all high-end brands as our customers. Ferrari, Maserati, McLaren, Porsche, BMW M, AMG. 1/3 of our business here in Germany is now OEM. And that is unusual for a company in that size to be so successful there. So, which means the experience out of motorsport transfers now into OEM.
That's amazing. A lot of times in the racing industry, just going back decades, as a company becomes bigger, it's really hard for them to remain competitive in racing because the advances in racing just never stop. But Eibach leads the way, and to do both and to do all of that, it's really impressive. And then, is there a difference in the way Eibach manufactures springs for different forms of racing?
I'll start that one.
Say, yeah.
Well, as Wilfred said, I mean, certain forms of racing have pushed our tolerances really, really tight. So, the NASCARs on our side and Formula Ones over in the German side, some of those have obviously pushed the tolerances to really slight margins. But there is differences. In America, we race everything from lawnmowers to, NASCAR and off-road. I mean, they're so completely different that we have different forms of different lines of springs to accommodate. Off-road trucks need, a lot of durability as well. So we can't get them too light where there's too much travel and, or overstress the spring. And, a dirt late model, they're really unbound in their rules, and they're really pushing the limits of, how much compression they're putting on springs and stored energy. They're really big on stored energy and keeping the car at an angle versus, a pavement car where it doesn't travel very much. So there is different ways that we do manufacture different lines of the springs. How we manufacture the spring doesn't really change, but the different lines of springs definitely are catered to different forms of racing for sure. Stefan can probably tell you a little more about what they do in Germany.
Yeah, so I can follow up what David explained. So in that case, that we have so completely different applications fields in racing. Doesn't matter if in Europe or in the US. Therefore, also we need certain raw materials. Let's start at 8 millimeter and end up at the off-road truck at 20. And therefore, you can imagine that we have the same processes in production, but for sure need different machines, different lineup in machines to control the wire and to get out the best result for the spring, or to find the best and consistent way to produce a spring. And therefore we have absolutely perfect setup of machinery in all facilities around the world, to produce that kind of spring, what the customer, what our catalog products are looking for. But at least the production steps or the processes will be more or less similar. It depends a little bit what kind of raw material you use for sure, but at the end, all steps. So what's really important for us is it's a really high-end raw material, because you need a good foundation, a good ground, a good start point to produce a spring. When you have a not consistent wire quality, you also are not able to produce a spring in a constant quality. And therefore, all our springs run through the same production step, like winding, heating, shot peening, presetting. What's really, really important, that you keep the ride height consistent. Also, what Cameron explained after his Bayer victory, and also for us, most, I think, also important race for you is at 24 hours at the Nürburgring, when you have in 24 hours more or less between 100 and 120 and 130 laps per race. It means around about or more than 3,000 kilometers in 1 day on the green hill, and you cannot have a better durability test for your product. And that results what we get out of these, let's say, real durability tests on a car, gets improved, and therefore we set up new design rules for the next ERS applications, or we take a look if we can find something in the raw material to get out a little bit more travel or whatever. So that's a constant circle how the whole development and research processes work all the time.
Great. Very cool. Okay. And then Wilfred, how does Eibach view or utilize sponsorships?
I like to get sponsored, yes.
That's kind of worldwide in racing.
Yeah. So first of all, to have a sticker on the car is nice, but we are not going for it. We can sleep without it. So which means we don't want to prostitute our products, and just to have a sticker on the car and pay for it, that's not what we want. We have to have additional reasons to create a win-win situation. So therefore, it's always a little bit difficult to support individuals because their competitors may say there's a special deal. So we like to be a little bit neutral and fair to everyone. And of course, in China, when we wanted to create some recognition, we went with some touring cars there, with Volkswagen especially, Ford also. But sponsorship is something, it's not so easy. For us, it's certain people, of course, we like to make special product for someone special, like Cameron, of course. We like that personal challenge, and we like to be involved with the adventure behind it, to be in Baja, to be in Ensenada and be close and talk to Cameron the afternoon before he was winning the race, and it was nice. And sponsorship, it's a little bit difficult. We leave it, every company, in China, they have to do a little bit more than in the US, I don't know. And here we go with Audi.
Yeah, we have certain sponsorships, but for sure it also depends a bit on what you are looking for. Did you like to visualize your market or our brand, or are we searching for new markets where we can step in? Because at the end of the day, we like to produce springs, and this has to be sold. So and therefore it's completely different, and it's not so easy, this question to answer right. But on the other side, when you have a team where you work really close with, or a manufacturer where you work really close with, to test also new materials, new spring application and so on. Therefore, maybe it's a benefit for both sides to get the best out of the deal. And this it doesn't matter if it's a deal based on cash or on products, you know. And therefore it's difficult around the world, and therefore each facility, each company make its own sponsorships.
But Dave made it the right way. Dave, please explain how you broke into the various race series, dirt late model and so on. You had your special ideas there.
Well, for me personally, I was racing, and Eibach somewhat sponsored me, and ended up going to work for him and becoming the sales manager. So that sponsorship worked out great.
Sure did.
No, but as a whole, I mean, we look at it more as a relationship than sponsorship. I think the word sponsorship definitely gets thrown around too much. You know, what we rely on with a team or individual person or whatnot is obviously some feedback with our product. You know, we're gonna definitely, if we're gonna come out with any new parts, we want to go to them and kind of let them use them and test them and see what kind of results we get before we go to market with them, as well as their social reach. You know, these days it's not just putting a sticker on the car; it's what can they provide for Eibach as well. So it's a service going both ways. You know, we're going to obviously help develop new products, get them tested with this team, and then how can that team help promote us as well. So it's definitely a relationship that goes both ways.
And Cameron, I want to ask you kind of similar question. I mean, really, when you pick Eibach as a part, as you have, it's also like choosing a partner. So there's got to be a lot of thought process that goes into that.
For sure. And to expand on the whole sponsorship relationship thing, for us, we're here to not just be a racer or a sticker slapper. You know, there's a lot of people that put a sticker on a vehicle and say we're sponsored, but for us, you know, it comes down to having a relationship and being able to define more than just putting a sticker on there, using the product, developing it. We love to test Eibach's ability to deliver the products with the trophy truck, the UTV, with the Raptors, everything that we do down at our Baja HQ shop. And not only that, we build content, we build television shows, we build web episodes. And so I think that for us, more than just being a race team, we're a marketing team. And I think that that's something that everybody can benefit from. But we look at it from a family standpoint. And to your question, John, you asked how we choose. For us, we just go with the very best product and then build the relationship along the way. For me, we have to be sponsored. I don't have the independent wealth to be a race team without having that sponsorship. And so we've been able to forge relationships with people that I think deliver the very best product. And of course, everybody will say that. Everybody toes the line on their sponsors are the very best. But I would challenge anybody to look at any product on our race truck or on any of our vehicles and tell me that there's something that's better available out there. And I don't think that's possible. And for us to be able to represent these brands like Eibach and Fox, BF Goodrich, you know, whoever it is, companies that bring the heat when it comes to race day, right? They bring the engineering, they bring the data. We just spent months with Ford Engineering because they bring the data, and it's amazing. And for us, we can't do it without. And I think that to hear David's explanation and Wilfred and everybody talk about it, it is more than just a sponsorship. You have to look at it from such a wide swath of what that means, the credibility of the individual, but also the credibility of the team, results, their media, and their positioning in the community. If people, you know, don't want to be a part of what that group is doing or that person is doing, it's hard to sponsor them because of the possible negative feelings around that. You know, it's a massive question. It's a tough one. And I think the entire industry of racers, you know, I don't think there's a perfect formula that you can box, and everybody has a little bit of a different opinion towards it. For me, it's building a relationship with people that I look at as family.
Very good. We have a specific question from the audience, so you can go down to kind of the chat option and type in a question, and I'll catch it. So David, how important are that thrust washers for spring bind?
I think they're definitely useful in any form of racing. There is, depending on the travel of the spring, the more travel that you have, the more torsional twist you're going to get. But it also depends on the form of racing. Obviously, in dirt forms of racing, it's difficult to keep those clean. It's a short type race in dirt, and the springs can be, you know, covered with bags or whatnot. It helps if it's, you know, in the Baja 1000 type. I don't know, Cameron might be able to better answer that, but I don't think they would last, in my opinion. But you know, pavement racing, anywhere where they're kept clean, I think they're, you know, definitely beneficial for sure.
Okay.
I also can interrupt a little bit because the thrust bearings are also really important when you compress a coil spring. You know, you also have torsion in the material, and to remove or to control this torsion, therefore the thrust bearings are really good that the spring do not stuck on the spring seat. Therefore it's flexible and can turn and move, and therefore you have no negative loads out of the torsion out of the spring.
Okay, very good. Now I'm going to run out of time. I can spend hours talking to you guys. So I'm kind of preparing for us to draw this to a close. So here's a big question. Excuse me, Wilfred, I'll start with you. What's the future look like for Eibach?
Yeah, we will remain a suspension company. If we will continue to work with wire or with air or with oil or maybe a sack of peas, which makes the suspension, but we will stick in there. And the good part is, if someone out there is a genius and he invents something on suspension which nobody knows until today, he will possibly come to us and say, hey, can you help us to bring this to the market? And so at the moment, we are pretty happy to be in suspension. Here in this area, there are so many companies which make parts, stamping parts and so on for combustion engines. And they are not doing very well here at the moment, or even being in exhaust pipes in the automotive OE industry. You are not in good shape. So on the suspension side, we are absolutely fine. And you know, we are not only in suspension springs, we are in playgrounds, we are in bar springs for big ship engines. We are one of the most diverse companies in this area. So therefore, we are not badly hit by this crisis here at the moment. And so I think we are all so flexible in thinking and so curious about market segments. There always will be something which we haven't been yet. And so we are now very much in special vehicle. There's so much business out there because those people, they really don't have the engineering to engineer suspension. This can be, they pull big airplanes, so they need springs. We make springs dampers for them. And so he has a very interesting market. We call it heavy duty suspension. We are just beginning to go into this market segment. So, and on the other side, okay, you will ask me, you are 78 now, how long will you live? So the future of us from the company standpoint, first of all, there's my daughter. So then we have foundations. We have a family foundation. We have a charity foundation. So they all will be involved in the company, and in the curatorium or in the committee, there are people from us. Julian Gill is in there, Christian Zebralla is in here, one or two guys from here are in there. So they control their own destiny once I'm gone. So, but I'm still here.
You still have a lot more Baja to do before you go anywhere, buddy.
Yeah, and funny thing with David, how often have we been together in Baja? And the first times, as we said, okay, David, you drive with me. After 2 or 3 years, I said, I'm now going to drive with you. So the role has changed. So I'm now the passenger, and he's the expert. Always nice. We always had fun together with David. Easy to say we share friendship. So, which is in most cases, mostly the case here everywhere.
David, I'll ask you the same question. Looking ahead to the future of Eibach, do you want to share some thoughts with us?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, Wilfred kind of touched on a lot of the topics there, but it's a difficult question. But as he said, we're going to remain. Thanks to Wilfred, he lets us stay focused in racing, which I think is our core. It's always kind of been the core, and that allows us to make high performance products outside of that. So whether that's, off-road trucks, or street off-road trucks, or performance street kits, or like he said, who knows, playground park stuff, who knows where the world's going to go. But I think, ultimately we're, a racing group. Everybody that works here has a passion for racing. And I think, typically that's the same around the world. So you go to Germany and China, everybody's obviously has that feeling, we're here for a reason. So even when Wilfred's gone, like he said, I think, the group will remain focused on racing and, aftermarket performance. So right now we're heavily pushing in the trucks are very popular. So we're kind of seen a push in that in the last few years, and I don't see that ending anytime soon in the UTV market and whatnot. But it all will revolve basically around the racing world.
I bet. And then Stefan, I'll ask the same question of you. Looking ahead to the future of Eibach, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, at first, thanks to Wilfred that everything is set up for the future, and that we are looking in a really good future, because especially here in Germany, we have many different business units where we work on different application fields. So like Wilfred mentioned, we have 30% of the company runs for the automotive OE sector. 30% for the aftermarket, which includes the motorsports here in Germany, and the other 40% are for industrial wellspring for bigger ship engines and so on. And therefore, we have a really good base, and we are absolutely open for new applications fields, and therefore everything is set up for the future. And each car needs suspension. Doesn't matter if springs or air jacks or whatever, but we are absolutely flexible, and I think that's a big benefit of us.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Then Cameron, I just want to ask go ahead, Wilfred.
Yeah, and we all know about PI and SEMA. Seeing us as PI, we will not be sold. So therefore, we set up this structure. And I was once or multiple times asked in America, they wanted to buy us. We have a good name, we have a good product, we are profitable. And then I said, no. I started here with 3 people, and now we are a few more, and most of them have become friends, and they care for me, and of course I care for them. And then my answer was, would you sell your friends? So it's therefore everything is set in place that this company stays as it is, family owned, and will not be sold and cannot be sold to anyone as an investor or private equity, because we have seen it too often. In the same moment, someone steps in, or too often, and starts to milk the cow. And that's what I wanted to avoid. So we will stay as we are, inspired and curious about the future, but happy to be together and hopefully continue to be respected by the industry. And one thing which I like most is we want to have the best product, but we also would like our customers to enjoy to work with us hand in hand. That's most important. And I think we have this kind of attitude that someone can come around with us, and that will stay forever, I'm sure. Yeah.
Well, when you say Eibach is not going to be sold, there's people in the racing business around the world right now nodding their heads and saying, that's a good idea. Keep Eibach, Eibach, don't change. Real quick, David, I just want to, or Cameron, what's the future for you? And then we'll wrap this up.
Well, for us, we've been doing this. I've been driving off-road cars since '85 and created our own media and racing business in 2003. We're going to keep going. Right now, our main focus is on the Peninsula Run for the Baja 1000. Next year, we'll be racing to La Paz, which is a big thing for us. Beyond that, we've been creating off-road adventure trips that are media-based. Our TV shows, Rip to Cabo and Trail of Missions, are partnered up with ESPN and ABC World television programming. And for me to be able to share it, that's really what's most important to me. And I know that Wilfred loves Baja, I love Baja, David does, all of us do. And for me, I love to share just the vibe of what we do. And our company's motto is share the stoke. And so I think the biggest thing for me is to be able to bring my daughters up, share that Baja vibe and the off-road vibe with them, but also spread that love. And so for that reason, we don't just race trophy trucks. We race the UTVs, the Ultra 4s, we ride dirt bikes, we do adventure trips. And I think, short-term vision, win that Baja 1000 Peninsula Run. We've had some great success over the last 6 years. We've been first, second, third, and fourth. We haven't won the Peninsula Run, which is really the granddaddy of all off-road races. So that's what we're focused on right now. And then beyond that, just sharing off-roading, because we all know it can't be a winning trophy truck driver forever. So eventually there's going to be some kind of sidestep into growing our footprint as media and a sharing company.
Okay, very
Wilfred,
good.
what do you think? We need to tag along on Cameron's one of his trips down there before it's over, huh?
For sure.
Yeah. Hey, we will visit Sal in La Paz. He has an apartment there. We were down there together. We made this trip with 5-6 people in our own vehicles. Took us 5 or 6 days to get down there. But we enjoyed it. So we will be down there, David, huh?
Sounds good.
Okay,
Yeah.
we're going to wrap
Important
this
thing.
up. I want to thank you so much for being here. The next webinar following us will be Ring Seal Soup, how honing oil rings and pistons combine to create ring seal, which impacts engine performance and longevity with total seal piston rings. This has been fabulous. I think any business school ought to study Wilfred Eibach, and somebody else ought to write a paper on him and a book on him and crack his code for running a business, because it's just spectacular. And I've studied it myself. I still don't know how Wilfred's done it all, but it's just always fun to talk to you, Wilfred, and you guys here. So thank you very much. And Francisco, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, John. Thank you, Wilfred, Stefan, David, Cameron. You guys were brilliant. What a great webinar. We, enjoyed it so much.
Registering on EPARTRADE is easy. Fill out your name, email, phone number, and create a secure password. Next, select your business type. Choose supplier if you're looking to display products or services and connect with buyers. Choose racing business if you're looking to find new parts and connect with suppliers. Choose race team if you own or are a member of a professional racing team. Begin typing your company name. We most likely already have your company in our database, which you can select from the drop-down. Then, enter your job title. Choose Claim Company if you'll be editing your company profile. Other members of your company can choose Join Company if they'd like to use EPARTRADE as well. You can view and agree to our terms of use here. If you'd like to receive our weekly newsletter, choose Accept. Click Register Now, and your registration will be submitted for approval. You'll need to confirm your email once it goes through. To keep our platform industry only, you'll be approved shortly after. If we require additional proof of business, we'll reach out. Welcome to EPARTRADE.